Okay, so this lecture is going to talk about doing a weight, animating a character interacting with a weight, and some of the things that we'll need to think about before we start the animation. So, any kind of animation where a character is interacting with a weight is important to prepare as best as you can, or at least it's recommended. Prepare as much as you can before you start. So, some things that you'll need, or some things that would be really helpful before you start, are if you are working with your own character or if you are working with an established character, try to get a model sheet of some kind. So I'm using this one for the character that I'm going to be doing. And if you're working with a character that already exists, you might be able to find their model sheets online if you just Google it. Not all model sheets are available, but a lot of them are. So this is just so you know what your character looks like. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. In fact, the model sheets can vary greatly. What you see here on the left is what's called a three-point turn. So that's just how to show the character in different angles. So this is a three-quarter front, three-quarter back, and side view. But you might see a front view, you might see a fully back view, you might see turnarounds that are almost 360. Any of those are fine. They also might be in the same pose or in different poses, or you might see instead just gestures in different directions. They may not be standing like this. Those lines that you see for this particular model sheet, that stands for the head height. So that's just to show you how large their head is, and you can see where their head falls for each level. That gives you an idea of how many heads make up their body, and it can help you gauge proportions. Do you have the proportions correct? Not all model sheets are going to show their head heights like this, have it measured like this, and some that do may have it done in different ways, where you might see their head over and over and over and over again, or a circle, down, 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 down. But any of those are fine. It's just a way of being able to measure that character. So another thing that'll help is to also do your own set of gestures. So mine is going to be that character picking up another. And the final animation is not going to be this refined. I just plan to go rough with it. But still, do gestures of your character interacting with a weight. You can do multiple different gestures while you're figuring it out, or if you have an idea in mind, you could do gestures of all the major poses that you think the character's going to do. That way you can have it planned out as best you can before it starts. Then I would recommend doing a video of your character interacting with the weight, or something as close to it as you can. So for me, I can't really lift another person. I'm not very strong. So I lifted my dog's obscenely large bed. And of course, because the bed is a bed and it doesn't have limbs, I am going to have to account for that when I go to animate. So this won't be exactly the same. If you are confident in animation and you feel like you want to take on the challenge, you could try something like that where it's a little bit more fantastical, or your reference may not be exactly 100% right, and you can deviate from the reference video as much as necessary. I'll play mine. So mine, I'm going to have to account for the fact that there are arms and legs and a head. But one thing I do like about this video is that I trip up right here and kind of stagger. And that was real, because that bed was surprisingly heavy. And I am going to keep that, or at least try to keep something like that in the animation, because that was real. And that's something that I recommend as a reasoning for doing reference videos like this instead of going straight into animation, because you're more likely to get something real like that you may not even think of, because it just may not enter your mind to consider those things. So here we go. So some other examples of, or another example of a lift that I've done for a project, for a real world project, is I worked on an e-card, and one of the shots, and it was a shot that I worked on, was with the squirrel climbing up the tree, grabbing this present, and dropping off the tree. So that was not something that I could just say, oh yeah, I can absolutely do an exact reference of that. I couldn't. I ended up going onto YouTube and looking up squirrel videos and just watching how they climbed so that I could see what it was like. And then for picking up the backpack, or I'm sorry, picking up the present, I picked up a backpack. So this is my reference video of when the squirrel goes and picks up the backpack. And then I end up doing like a pretend dive off at the end. And I obviously couldn't dive for real. The reason why I end up diving instead of pretending to jump was because I realized in the animatic that in the very next shot, he jumps down, but then the squirrel ends up being face down. And we realized that during production. So we had to make sure those two connected, because booty down first here and then head down here didn't really work. So we end up going with a dive at the end. Or I think we tried a dive and then we end up switching to a climb down, because they end up being too fast at the end. So this was the final video for the squirrel. Yeah, let's close that. So using the different reference footage of a squirrel climbing, so I could see how they moved from YouTube, gave me some reference for how the squirrel moves up the tree. I got to learn some interesting things about how the tail works, because the tail, I wanted to make sure that he looked interested but not alarmed. So I did some research on tail movement for that. Climb on. Grab. And then use the video reference that I took for putting on the present and climbing down. So those are some things that can really help. Some other recommendations too, to see real world examples, is you can look up acting references, animation, acting videos, and you'll be able to see some. There are some available online, sometimes compared with their with the final animation that they were acting based on. And I know it might feel awkward as animators to do that, especially if you don't have a lot of experience acting in front of a camera, but if you do it over and over and over again, eventually it'll help you kind of get over the initial nerves. Often, at least in my experience, the first few times I record something, it comes out pretty not great because you get nervous in front of the camera. But once you get past that, it can really help. If you're really nervous about acting in front of the camera, you can maybe try to find a hammy friend who might be happy to act for you. But anyway, assuming that you'll be prepared for your animation, I'm going to move on to starting the wait. So I'm going to call this wait demo, and I'm going to put this in Harmony, or save it onto my desktop. Okay, so what you could do with the reference footage, you could go to File, Import, Movie. If you decide to do that, then your timing is going to be done right in the, right inside of the timeline down here. And that would be good for rotoscoping, or if you really want to make sure that your timing is exactly right, or if you're working with an animatic and you want to make sure your animatic's timing, that your animation timing is tied exactly to your animatic timing, then it might be worthwhile to do that. That being said, I don't exactly want my timing of this video to be exactly the same as the animation. I tend to move a bit slower, and I may just want to time it, especially since this might be a bit different in animation, because I have to account for the fact that the character has more limbs, and it might, this might not be helpful 100% of the time, so I don't exactly want to force it to be timed to the timeline. So I'm going to have this off to the side here. I usually work with a dual screen, so I normally have it on the other screen, but just so you guys can see what I'm looking at, I'm going to put it up here. And I'm also going to take the gestures, and I'm going to move them over too, just so I remember exactly what I had planned. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean I'm going to have the gestures be 100%, or the animation follow the gestures 100%. Not necessarily, but at least it will give me something to remind me of, oh, okay, that's what I meant to do. Okay, so I would recommend that you keep whatever is the weight that the character's interacting with on a separate layer than the character themselves. Really, anything that's moving separately should be on its own layer. And you can use the brush or you could use the pencil. Doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to use a darker blue. And how's the line work? Let's make it slightly thicker. Let's try 15. That looks better. Okay. Actually, let's put that off to the side. So you could tap these to make them go away for a little bit. And I'm going to turn this to a darker red. So that's going to be one character, and that's going to be the other character. So I'm going to name this Cain, which is the name of the guy on the floor. And I'm going to name the other one Rori, which is the one who is crouching and not laying on the floor. Let's move over. I just want to see that pose. Okay. So I'm just blocking out his body parts. Okay. Okay, and I think I'm going to leave his other leg out for the moment. There we go. Now I'm just blocking him out. And I'm going to start her sitting. Oh, actually, he's quite large. Let me make him a little smaller. Just because at the size that he was, if she picked him up, they'd go off screen. Not that we can't fix that, but since I noticed it right in the first frame, I'll just try to avoid that. And I do recommend a different if you ever have multiple characters in the same shot, I usually recommend the roughs being, for each character, being a different color. Just because once they start interacting with each other, it could start to become harder to tell them apart. Okay. Okay, and she's supposed to be a bit smaller than him. Okay. So I'm looking at the spacing, the negative spacing between the feet there. Okay. And she's got one arm draping on the leg. Let's move her body up a little bit. And I'm going to have her hand up and raise it maybe to... No, let's just start it right on her face. We'll just start it there. This is more about the weight and less about the intro. And I got 2 fingers closed. This and... Okay. No, actually, let me leave out the hair. Maybe leave the ear. And she is 6 heads tall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I feel like her head might be small, but it's hard to tell because she's all crunched up like this. Oops. Okay. Okay, so there we go. We have the first pose. Now, I do not recommend going straight ahead, although you could. You could go straight ahead. I'd recommend, or at least for this demo, I'm going to be doing it pose to pose. That way I could see if this is even working before I go and have to fix anything. So, how do we do that in here? How do we even know? So I'm going to go through and see. There is a contact position right here. Usually any kind of contact is a good extreme. Now, how long did that take? That took about 1 second. Well, actually about 2 seconds. Okay. So let's take it. And I'm going to go over here and extend the exposure. And what do I look like here? Contact. Okay, so body's leaning back a little bit, shoulders are rotated. Contact. So I want contact before pressure, before actually lifting or doing any kind of pulling. So let's... Okay, did this leg move? A little, but it's more just me trying to balance. So, not really. Okay. So what I could do is, if I'm sure the leg's not actually moving, not really, I could copy and paste some of this. Oops. Oh, I put her on the wrong layer. I just drag her up. That's all. So I just put her on the wrong layer. I just took that drawing and I just moved it up. Left mouse down and drag, or press down with your pen. Oh, and actually there is a... Let's see. Yeah, I need to bring the body down. There we go. Because the hand should be almost at the same level, a little bit higher than the foot, and this is lower, so... Okay. Probably needs this to be a bit larger too. There we go. Okay. And he's not really going to move yet. She's just making contact with him. And does the arm shift? A little bit. Okay. I should... Okay. Let's copy, paste. Nah, let's redraw it. I'll redraw it roughly similarly, but not exactly the same. There is a little bit of movement. Okay. Then up, and the knee goes down, and the feet are rotating. Okay. So that would maybe be an extreme, where the hand's as high as it goes. How long did that take? Where are we at? 3 seconds. Okay. Maybe this much. So here's one hip. Here's the other hip. You rotate. It looks, or yeah, they rotate, but they stay in the same place. Like they don't slide because they're weight bearing. They're both weight bearing. So they could rotate, but if they were to slide, I'd be falling on the floor. Actually, the knee contact's in the middle. Where's that at? That's at 3 seconds too. Okay. And okay, head is looking down a bit. Okay. And then I drew her on the wrong layer again. Let's go back to him. Now he would be reacting now. She's grabbing him from about here. So that's like under his armpit. So the extremities are going to want to probably try to stay as long as they can. And he's going to be tilted because the pressure's in his armpit. The extremity is going to want to stay in the same place. And the legs are going to stay in the same place also. Maybe I can even dangle his head a little more. There we go. Okay. And then contact. So what does he do? What am I doing? Okay, so it's that. That is going to be a challenging change. So maybe instead of grabbing the up here, probably make more sense to grab the arm and pull the arm over. So let's try that. So this is at 4 seconds. Oh, I need to extend. Okay. Been at 5. I'm pseudo guesstimating the time. Okay. So I'm going to have to adjust this. I can't 100% follow. So let's try She's gonna grab the wrist and pull the arm over. Or grab a... Yeah, I think it would just make sense for her to grab the arm. Grab. Yeah, maybe bring the arm up a little higher, the hand up a little higher. Let's see. Okay. Okay. And then probably this kind of pose. Where's that at? 5. I'm going to take this and move it far over, because there's still a lot more left of it to do. Okay. Okay. And so I'm going to have her bow her head down. Oops. Blue. Okay. 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 Maybe this hand should be farther back. Like farther up. Okay. Let me see where that hand could go. Okay. Okay, so there's this. So could maybe do something like that. Let's see. There is an adjustment, yeah. There's an so there's this, and then there's a adjustment. So what if I have her take his arm around her shoulder. Oops, I just broke his arm. Just left his other arm behind. There you go. Okay. 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 And then maybe have the hands adjust after that. Let's try. Let's have her raise her arm up. Now, if she drops both and moves both arms at the same time, she's going to drop him. He's going to fall. So probably one at a time. Maybe slide back a little. And I'm sure the legs would probably be in the same position. Copy, paste. Bring the body back a little. Oops. Oh. Okay. Okay, so she's got one hand off of him. I'm going to have her other hand still there. Otherwise, he'll slip. Yep. So I'm going to try to get to that kind of something like that pose. Maybe bring the hand up. She's probably going to do it rather fast. So, oh. Yeah, probably pretty quick. I would think the hand shifting position, especially since he's heavy. So maybe something like that. Have her lean a little more. And she's still going to hold on because she's going to make contact with one. She's got to make contact with this before she starts moving that hand. So Okay. Okay, so she's kind of grabbing his elbow. Okay. And then hand moves underneath. Gonna need a balance with that other leg, so I'm gonna push that other leg this way. I'm thinking because she's leaning. If she leans too far, she's gonna fall. She's gonna lose her balance. And the leg is pretty far that way too. Oh, I drew her in Cain's layer. Okay, she's putting her hand under his chest. It kind of looks like she's got it under his chin or under his face, but it's supposed to be under his chest. And she's kind of gripping his elbow. Okay. So, should probably see if this looks decent so far. Don't forget to save. Let's watch what we have. Okay. Not much yet. Not much happening just yet. It's looking okay. Might be a little slow, but it's kind of hard to tell. I have a better idea with in-betweens. Or some in-betweens. Okay. So, hoist. So let's do that. Oh wait, how far did I extend that? Oh, I already did extend it pretty far. Okay. I forgot to add her arm. Okay. Okay, so she's pulling him. Okay. So her hand is under his head, or under his chest. And then his elbow his arm might be not reaching that spot anymore. Oh, I have them both on the same layer. So I'm just going to grab him and move him over to the other layer. It's not a huge deal, but it's easier to kind of track them. Okay, there's some red marks in her layer, it's fine. And putting her heel down. And this leg up. And I want to keep his feet in the same position as long as possible because they're the farthest extremity, so they're going to be the last things to move. Okay. Then. Okay, and I believe yeah, there's this little hop forward. So let's do a little anticipation. So there is a shift like that. Would you want to do that? Okay. Maybe. Okay. We'll try it. So I'm going to have her do it real fast. The more time you actually have your character adjust themselves and try to balance or prepare for the lifting, the heavier the object will appear to be. So this is going to come across as heavy, like readjusting the hands, trying to get a good grip, a lot of leaning, a lot of anticipation. This is a heavy object, or it will help come across as a heavy object. Okay. And his elbow is here. His head, yeah, I think his head will still be here. Okay. And then there's the jump. Let's add a little more anticipation. Let's have her push down before coming up, which I think it does a little tiny bit here, but not very notably. Okay, and let's make sure those feet are there. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to put her up higher on her toes. Have her go down a lot. Okay. And I'm going to try to get the posing of the body down real quick, and then I'll go through and add him. So up, up, Okay. Up. And there's not much. So that's heavy. Let's go a few frames later. I'm going to need to add it in between for this. But let's see. How far does she step? It doesn't look like much. Let's... I'm going to need in between for that because otherwise it's going to look like she's sliding. Okay. So she's just landed. Let's bring the foot up. And then down. Okay. Let's have her sink a little bit. Okay. Okay. Squash her down a bit more. Actually, let's move her over because she's got to be shifting that weight this way. Okay, up. Okay, so when going up, the knee reverses. That's interesting. Okay. So this hip is higher. This one's still down. Okay. Go across. And let's do, yeah, right there. And what's this foot doing? Okay. Toe is still in the same place, pretty much, but there's a little bit of reversal. Comes out. Okay. And then on touchdown, goes down. So impacts. Actually, let's move a little further. Okay. Okay, and then comes down. Okay, that's where 1 foot is. 1 foot, 1 foot, and okay, and then she lands, and then rocks over to the other side because she lost balance. Okay, so these are all weight-bearing spots, so those should not move. And what is, yeah. Oh, actually, heel is up. Okay. Let's see if this is how this is looking. It's a bit slow. It's rather slow. Let's maybe speed some of this up. Okay, that speed's probably all right. And there needs to be an in-between between this and this. I'll break down. Okay, that also needs an in-between. Let's do an in-between between these two. Let's have her go up. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, this is maybe a little slow. Oh. Da, da, Okay. Okay. Yeah, it looks like a little hyperextension. The limbs here are a little weird. And let's add in between these two. There we go. Now there's more of a drop. That looks better. And do I go any further? I might push this pose a little more. I think that is about as far as I go, but maybe exaggerate it a little bit. I'm not sure if that's going to work. Now that is losing balance. Let's see. We'll see if this works. And then I think there's, yeah, lean. So let's drop her down. I'm dropping her a lot more than in the video because one, I'd exaggerate. Like, it looks fine in the live action, but sometimes in animation, subtlety may not read. So if we can, it can be helpful to push those poses. Okay. And maybe not right there. Okay, up. So it's the butt that lifts, and the head kind of stays in the same position. That's also an indicator that it's heavy. So I'll have the head move a little. And rotate the shoulders more so that we're looking at the top. And let's try. Up. And then okay, and then settle. And then standing up. Okay. And then I'm going to have her bow forward so she could step forward like I do in here. And have something land first when taking a step. It's so far been the toes pretty often, but here maybe the heel of the foot. Okay. And I still gotta add the person she's carrying. There we go. But let's see if her actions look okay first. I think I have her shrinking. Yeah, oh, she shrinks. Oh no. Yeah, she's the same height as she is when she's... cool. Oh, that's something I gotta fix. Progressively shrinks. Okay, at what point does she start shrinking? Okay. That's hilarious. Okay, so... cool. So let's, well, do I want her to be the height as she is at the end? The shoe would fit him better. So maybe it's this one I should fix. Because once she stands up, she's going to go off screen. Alright. Let's grab this. Copy. Size ref. Add and close. Let's put her on the first frame. Ah! That is hilarious. That is so common. Okay. So how about I'll make this last one. Extend to the end. And lock it. How about you guys? Actually, I'm just going to make that next frame visible so that when I'm shrinking her, her foot placement is still, like, correct. There we go. Oh, actually, he does not need to move right here, but she does. Let's shrink, 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 shrink. And he needs to be back. Oh, shrank them a little too much. Well, at least one thing that's helpful is we have some anchoring points, like his foot that doesn't move for a while. This is also why it's helpful to do pose to pose, because when this stuff happens, it is a lot easier to fix when you don't have all the in-betweens. Yep. Shrink, yeah, I shrink her too much. Okay, select both layers. Okay. Yeah, now I can't really watch this foot anymore because it's moving. At least not in this frame, but I am looking at this spot now because that's another anchoring point. It's the part that's not moving that much. And these look like they're pretty good. Just needs to keep the feet in the same place. Actually, let's, because I think all these probably have the same issue of needing to be in the same, oops. There we go. Oh, I guess it's going to be hard because I'm not going to be able to see. Is that right? How about I take this one? Take the size rough. Let's color them red. Let's put them right here. Lock it. Apply to all layers, or apply to all frames. Apply to all frames. Grab all y'all. Oh, I still can't see that well. Let's see if I can get that blue to match the red. Did that work? Oh. Well, it did, but I have the character in the wrong place. Okay. All right. Now let's see if that is a little better. Okay. Okay, this probably, this to this should be quicker. And this should probably be longer. Okay. Yeah, he got moved. Or she got moved. Yeah, and some of the sizes are still a little off. Let's take her, shrink her down. Okay. Okay. Does feel like she still shrinks a bit at the end. Let's take... Make her a little taller. A little taller. A little taller. A little taller. Let's see how that looks. I'll move him over, it's not a big deal. There we go. So there's a first draft. I still need to add him on the rest of the frames and, you know, her arms once she starts getting up. Gotta do probably some more checking on the sizes, make sure that she's sized correctly. That's really common. You're gonna find that your character's gonna grow and shrink, most likely, and that's just something you're gonna have to fix. We try to avoid it as best we can, but it's not something like, oh, you eventually get good and it never happens at all. It's more that you get more, that you get a little bit stronger with noticing it more often. Okay, and that is the first section.